Shades of Freedom by Diego, Mo, Mava, Radley, and Annika.
Shades of Freedom, Chapter 1. Do you ever feel like your life is missing a certain, one of those, and that your life isn't complete without? Well, if you have ever felt a hunger for, then you, like Bartholomew, might have need of the services provided by the Church of the Crimson Order, exclaimed Cardinal Simon. In an effort to gain new adherents to his faith, Cardinal Simon was recording a tape which he hoped to spread in order to benefit the church. Cardinal Simon spoke towards Bartholomew. So, Bartholomew, what was your life like before you found salvation with the Church of the Crimson Order? Speaking solemnly, Bartholomew gave all he could recall of his past life. Well, I was severely vitamin D deficient as I grew an obsession with painting my body completely with the color vermilion. I was known as the Vermilion Tower because of my large stature and how reliably coated in vermilion I was. I painted everything with vermilion. My house, my car, my trees, my wife Sophie, my children Red, Rodolfo, and Redalina, and my dog Red Bull were all washed in vermilion paint. When I went outside, I only stepped on vermilion stones, only ate vermilion food, and shook hands with vermilion strangers. It was a divine color, representing purity, order, and tradition. It brought me comfort and meaning in my existence, and I knew that as long as I could continue to paint the world vermilion, I would be alright.
Chapter 2. The Journey. Sophie and Bartholomew's children, Red, Rodolfo, and Redalina, had known no other life. Their toys, their clothes, even the pages of their school books bled vermilion. Red Bull, the family dog, trotted loyally at their side with a vermilion-stained collar around his vermilion-dyed fur. The townsfolk in Vermilionton began not with breakfast or school or work, but with ritual. Each morning, just as the sun peeked through the red-stained windows of Vermilionton, the townsfolk, men, women, and children, gathered in unison at the Crimson Order, the only church in town. Inside, the pews were lined with rows of townsfolk draped in vermilion robes, heads bowed down in reverence. At the pulpit stood Cardinal Simon, his voice echoing through the chamber. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. We all gather here on this blessed day to be thankful that vermilion is in our presence. Let us reject the temptation of chaos. Let us remember purity lies in one true hue. The children recited the Crimson Pledge by heart, but their minds wandered. One color, one truth, one hue, one truth. In vermilion we trust, in chaos we do not. May the red guide our path and cleanse our thoughts. Eyes closed, hands over their hearts, the people murmured, Amen. For in Vermilionton, conformity was survival. Every morning was the same, until one day while heading to school, Red, Rodolfo, and Redalina took a different path. Red, chasing a butterfly that had flown in the middle of their path, led him astray. As it flew, Red noticed its vermilion wings as it fluttered about. Rodolfo and Redalina were too busy arguing to notice that they were off their normal route. You took my lunch by accident, Redalina hissed, rummaging through her bag. This one has pickled red eggs in it. Gross, Redalina exclaimed. It's not my fault. Mom packed them in the same red bags, Rodolfo fired back. And anyway, you made us late, not me. Red, trailing a few steps ahead of them, rolled his eyes at their familiar back and forth. Their arguments were like background noise, constant and predictable. The butterfly vanished into a thick patch of bushes. Invoking Red's curiosity, Red crouched down, pushed aside the leaves, and tried to spot it again. After a period of hunting, Red sighed, brushed off the dirt from his hands, and stood up. He looked around and realized how lost he'd become. The usual crimson path was gone. In its place was an overgrown trail that stretched deeper into the burgundy trees. Curious, Red had followed it until it opened up into a clearing. That's when he saw a blue morph butterfly perched on the soot-covered steps of what remained of a house, its foundation completely withered away, with just the lone remaining frame of what seemed to be the entrance. Everything else that remained was completely charred and barren. I didn't make us late. You're the one who takes forever doing your hair, Redalina explained exasperatedly. Well, geez, what can I say? The lady's like a guy that can put effort into his looks. Rodolfo smirked as he dramatically flipped his hair. Ugh, gross. Wait, Where are we? Redalina asked, eyes widening as she took in the ruins. Rodolfo narrowed his eyes at the structure. I've heard some talk about a family that lived here a long time ago, but they disappeared. They disappeared? Red said quietly. Yes, it was said that after the wildfire, the family was never seen again, Rodolfo said. Redalina furrowing her brows. But if it was a wildfire, it should have spread throughout the town. Why only this house? Rodolfo shrugged. I'm not sure. It could have been just bad luck, or something went wrong. The three of them stood in silence for a moment. A whisper of smoke still clung in the air. Not too strong, but strong enough to create a feeling of uneasiness. The blue morph butterfly that had been resting began to flutter towards the trail further into the burgundy trees. Wow, it's beautiful, Redalina softly uttered, her eyes following its iridescent wings. I've never seen a butterfly that color in Vermillionton. Without a word, Red left them and chased after the butterfly. Man, where are you going now? Now we're really going to be late, Rodolfo exclaimed as he ran behind him. Gosh, I should have just had Mom drive me instead of walking with these two, Redalina sighed, following them reluctantly. The three of them followed the butterfly, farther into the forest, traveling farther away from town than they've ever been before, until they met the end of the path where there stood a fence, its metal rusted and bent in places. What is this place? Red whispered, pressing a hand to the cool iron bars. Red, what's the matter with you? Do you realize how dangerous this is? If Father or anyone from town sees us, we're gonna be in trouble, Rodolfo snapped. Red rolled his eyes and began climbing over the fence, but wasn't able to leverage his weight because of his height. I don't think we're supposed to be here, Rodolfo muttered, eyes darting nervously. Let's go back before someone sees us. Redalina, undeterred, tested the loose bars of the fence. It wiggled free, and with one quick pull, it opened enough to create a gap. She shot at Rodolfo a look, her voice firm. No, she said firmly. Don't you want to see what's out there? With shared glances, hearts racing, they ducked through and crossed the other side. What they found on the other side was like stepping into a dream, a world of color. The moment Redalina stepped through the fence, her breath caught in her throat. It was like stepping into another universe. The Vermilion disappeared from the town, and it seemed as if Vermilion was extinct. Instead, an aura of beautiful colors rose from the shadows and became prevalent. Every vibrant color you can imagine brightened up the dark scarlet and crimson skies. Trees weren't the dull vermilion they used to be, but emerald and deep earthy browns. Wildflowers bloomed in every shade imaginable: lavender, sunflower yellow, ocean blue, even delicate pinks that shimmered in the breeze. The air smelled different too, fresh, like the rain and sweet herbs, nothing like the ever-present metallic scent of red dust back home.
Chapter 3. A Path Less Traveled. The narrow path widened as Red, Redalina, and Rodolfo ventured deeper, and soon they found themselves on a cobblestone street. They had stumbled across a small village. While scanning their surroundings, they noticed the village was not like Vermillionton. The village was vibrant and blissful. It seemed the people living there were all different. Different colors, different shades of the same color. Everything was different. The children were not scared by any means. A sense of joy and happiness overcame their emotions as they started walking through the village. The colors were vibrant, and it felt that no shade of darkness could cover over the village. There were no crimson robes or red streets, only vibrant cloth, skirts, and scarves woven with intricate patterns. The buildings were just as varied. Some were painted in shades of lavender, others in rich oranges and yellows, with rooftops made of natural materials that blended harmoniously with the surroundings. The ground of the village had a sweet smell like cinnamon rolls. The people who lived in the village were kind and sweet, like the aroma that covered the village. They were welcoming and inviting to the children. The air smelled sweet, freshly baked bread, spices and fruits. Mingling with the scent of wildflowers, it was a far cry from the sterile, almost suffocating air of Vermillionton. The atmosphere was beautiful. Everyone was allowed to be themselves without any judgment. Rodolfo, his eyes wide in awe, looked around. This is real?" he whispered. Redalina went past the others towards the nearest villager. She asked, "Where are we, and how have we never known about this town?" The locals, in their vibrant garments of moss, lilac beige, and a dozen other shades, stared down at Redalina's vermilion-washed head. "Don't worry about any of these questions. They don't matter anymore," answered one of the strangers through a turquoise mask. But before Redalina could respond, everyone was distracted. She and her siblings were bombarded with a wave of hospitality and kindness from the townsfolk. They wandered further into the village and were soon greeted by a group of locals. People dressed in shades of purple, green, turquoise, and gold welcomed them with meals full of flavor and storytelling rich in tradition and difference. Their faces were warm and open. The children were offered fresh fruit, warm bread, and food that smelled nothing like the bland meals they'd grown up on. It was full of spice, flavor, and bright and vibrant colors, unlike the red-tinted food they had always known. "Here in this land," the elder explained, her voice carrying the weight of generations, "we are taught to embrace all colors, to live in harmony with every hue of nature. Our ancestors lived in the balance with the earth, celebrating the sky's brilliant blues, the greens of the forest, the yellow of the fields. All were sacred. It was a way of life we have carried forward, unity and diversity." They celebrated all colors, believing unity and diversity to be their greatest strength. The children, still wide-eyed from the bright, vibrant colors of the land they had stumbled upon, exchanged glances. One of the villagers, a middle-aged man with a kind face, noticed their confusion and smiled. "You see, young ones, our people have always known that strength lies not in conformity, but in diversity. We lived this way long before others came to our lands and told us otherwise." The children listened quietly, but it was Rodolfo who couldn't resist asking, "Others? Who came?" The elder paused for a moment, her eyes flickering with quiet sorrow. "Many years ago, a group of people and soldiers came together, named the Crimson Founders. They brought with them their own ways, their own beliefs. They saw the world through a single color, a single lens, and they tried to impose that vision on everyone. They built their town here, but in doing so, they disrupted the balance of our people had known for generations." Rodolfo leaned forward, curious. "What happened to them? The people who were here first?" The elder's eyes darkened. "Over time, the newcomers took what they wanted. They built their walls and fences, and they had claimed their land as their own. Crimson Founders came, led by fire and steel. They massacred and enslaved our people, and shattered our sacred bonds. The colors we once held dear were buried beneath the ashes of their conquest. We, the last remnants of the old ways, remember what was lost, but they seek to erase it forever." The words seemed to burn into Rodolfo's mind. He looked up, his eyes wide with realization. They came and slaughtered everyone? They didn't just take their land, they destroyed their entire way of life, and now our town is built on that blood? The elder nodded. "Yes. The Crimson Order was born from that violence, and it has shaped everything you know. Vermilionton, the walls of red, the rituals, they are all a part of the lie that has been told for generations. The land you live on was never theirs to claim, and the colors they worship are a provision of what once was." The children were silent, absorbing the weight of her words. It was a slow burn realization growing upon them. Everything they had known about Vermilionton, its red walls, its rigid beliefs, was built on a foundation that had disregarded the very people who once lived there. Rodolfo, still holding the book, turned its pages slowly, his finger tracing over the ancient script. He found another passage, one that seemed to hold more truth than he had anticipated for. "Long ago, our people lived freely under the sky's many colors. But then, those who did not see the beauty of diversity came, and with them came walls. They painted over the earth with a single hue, believing it was the only way. The balance was broken, and with it, our way of life was destroyed. They tried to make their land their own, but they could never truly own what was never theirs to take." Rodolfo's voice shook as he read aloud. This is about Vermilionton. It's about the land we live on." The children thanked the townspeople with warm smiles and full hearts, carrying the colorful gifts they had